As you all know, I've been working on Simplicity S9598, a dress pattern by Mimi G. For this pattern, I did make a size 16. The finished garment measurements for a size 16 is 36.5 inch bust, 31.5 inch waist, and 37 inch hip. This fit closest to my measurements, which are 37 inch bust, 30 inch waist, and 38 inch hip. This pattern calls for 1/4 yard of 1/2 inch elastic and stretch knit fabrics such as rib knit and jersey. The first fabric option was this leopard print rib knit, and option 2 was this soft cotton stretch butterfly fabric. I decided not to go with either of these as I was thinking I needed a fabric with 4-way stretch versus 2-way stretch. I went with option number 3, which is this very flowy, stretchy floral print. This may not have been a good choice, and you'll see why later. Here's co-star number 1, my niece Genesis. She was very helpful throughout the cutting process. Here is co-star number 2, my other niece Trinity. It was at this moment they decided to make their own YouTube video of me making my dress. They had their narration and everything down to a T. It was too cute. Now, try not to cringe too much, but I thought it would be convenient for me to iron out my pattern pieces on my cutting mat, covered with the towel, of course. Do not do this. I quickly realized I should check how this was affecting my mat and realized that this was not a very good idea. As you can see, it started to warp the mat. Maybe if the temperature on the iron were a little lower, it would have been okay, but just don't do this. So I just removed the mat, let it cool, and ironed on the towel alone. At this point, I was freezing, so I put on some fuzzy socks to keep my feet warm. During the construction process, I had to go back and mark my dots and circles on my pattern pieces. I was so confused. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten something so important. But I see now that I did make these markings and that the ink disappeared as it had been a few days between cutting and construction. And by the way, I put out content like this every Wednesday, so if you're enjoying this video so far, remember to subscribe. She's still recording. If you've enjoyed my co-stars so far, give them a thumbs up below. They just knew they'd be on TV. And finally, co-star number 3, my nephew Gavin. He will not be left out. I did not make any adjustments to this pattern, but boy, were mistakes made. Mistake number 1. I cut this at the wrong points of the pattern piece, leaving the opening on one of the pieces too wide. Mistake number 2. Sewing to my heart's content, I sewed wrong sides together. Mistake number 3. What's worse than your bobbin running out when you've just sewn a perfect seam? At this point, it was time for a break. I made my bed, folded laundry, and then completed the dress. My dress turned out to be too big. It hangs off my shoulders, as you can see here, and the back was gaping. Somehow, I did not mark out my elastic. I just kind of estimated and eyeballed a piece of elastic, which I think ended up being a little too big. So, I tried to fix this cutout area by trimming the elastic, hoping this would take away some of the slack. It only made it worse, causing the excess fabric to bunch up here. Here you can see how loose the sleeves are. I attribute this to the drape of the fabric and will make a more appropriate fabric choice when I remake this dress. All in all, I enjoyed the process and will definitely make this dress again. I had fun with this project, as you can see in the photos here.